if you're a CEO of an organization and you're faced with that and somebody says, look, you need to press the reset button, there's clearly implication both from a operation model and things like that. If the question is, where do I start with that? What would you recommend to those individuals?
Yeah, so I think it depends on your marketplace, your view on internal versus external. And when I talk about the marketplace, how regulated you are. So different companies have different compliance levels. Again, giving a little bit of history, a couple of years ago when people started to use the term AI, and then around March last year, it became agentic AI. And then you've got OpenAI, and then you've got Anthropic. All of this happened somewhat organically. This wasn't like there was a massive marketing campaign, like no software from Salesforce. This just happened organically. And so people started to use it in their personal life. And then people started to use it case by case in organizations. And then CIOs woke up and said, oh my God, I need to have some level of control. So what we always say is try to figure out where is the maximum ROI, but make sure you have a balance of not constraining people, but not letting it go crazy. Because there are regulatory issues, there are compliance issues, but there's also massive value if you can find the right use cases. So really look at ROI and then just make sure you've got some sort of compliance wrapper around the ROI. If there's ROI, go for it, but make sure that you think about the implications of driving that particular use case.
And in terms of, you've talked about the delivery model and changing that delivery model in the AI area, and you've talked about age tech being well placed. What is it that makes us different? In that way of working?
Yeah, so if you think about, again, I'll use Anthropic. I could use any tool out there, but I'll just use Anthropic, for example, Claude. If you give a tool to a fool, don't expect much. If you look at the use cases that are being developed by age tech and by the more advanced users, it's because the DNA of those people is heavily skewed towards expertise. So if you think about the spectrum of software engineering, at one end you've got sort of commodity engineering, and at the other end you've got very advanced engineering, which is now sort of interchangeable to some extent with AI. Because we always focused on a heavy skew towards hiring the best talent, retaining them, and working on the more complex use cases, the curiosity that our people have and the expertise, put them with an AI tool, it becomes exponential. So I think this is one of the interesting situations. AI can be for everyone, but the more curious you are, the more skilled you are, which is heavily part of our DNA. We used to say, give us your most complex problems to start with.
Yes.
That was our sort of mantra. Therefore, because we have that experienced talent that's super skilled and curious, our ability to actually pick up and drive these use cases really fast. It's not that other people can't, but you can see when you analyze the results and the outcome of people that use these AI development environments, the more skilled engineers, it becomes exponential. Yeah. So the average person can increase their productivity by X%. The really skilled and the curious, it's exponential.
So we're talking about skills, and clearly those enterprises who are having to change the operating model and really press that reset button, they're not going to have the skills overnight.
Correct.
So there's they need to take a different look at partnerships and who they're partnering. What are you seeing in the marketplace in terms of people's openness to partners? So if I think about the survey that we did recently, we did a survey, 2,500 executives, and interestingly, there was a bit of a contradiction. They claimed that they were at 60%, I think roughly, completely aware that they needed to partner with external people in order to boost that talent and accelerate that whole journey. At the same time, they felt that they had the right level of talent internally. So it points to a level of contradiction within the organization. But what are you seeing, and what would be, for somebody looking to partner, what are some of those key criteria?
Yeah, it's a great question. I also think this is a fast-moving situation. So I think if you'd surveyed people 18 months ago, 12 months ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago, you'll get slightly different questions based on the maturity of organizations. Again, a little bit of history of the last 2 years, the frenzy that started in sort of 2024, 2025, then agentic came along, and then sometime during the summer, everyone was saying, no, this stuff doesn't work. it's overcooked and it's not. And then I think what's happened in Q4 and in early part of this year is that a lot of that early sort of trialing and erroring did help a lot of organizations to understand where is the value and where is just the basic. So there's utility in all AI, but where is the real value? There was also a lot of noise in 2025 early that AI is all about, I've got 10 people, deploy I only need 5. Actually, that's totally flipped, where people are now saying, I've got 10 people, how do I make that 10 people as efficient as 20 people? So it's also changed the narrative. So I think I'm going to reduce headcount has now gone away. It's how do I make my headcount more efficient? What I've seen extensively in the last few months, maybe in as short as the last 2 or 3 months, is I don't go to any executive meeting now without them already saying I've got a hypothesis of where the use cases are. And that hypothesis list is very, very, very long.
Right.
And when you look at the competency that most companies have versus the list, it's totally misaligned. And my friends Anthropic said something last week at this event where they've now estimated that there is an 8 to 12 times requirement for services to really deploy this at scale. So every dollar needs $8 to $12 of services. And there is not enough expertise in the world. This is way, way bigger than SAP. The difference from the SAP days of services is that they were multi-year projects.
Yes.
Whereas now that people want it like next week, next month, worst case next quarter. So I think there is a recognition from the companies that have been on that sort of journey over the last couple of years. There was a euphoria, the hype, and then it went down. Then they started to see use case and they started to see value. Now they have this long list of value. They clearly need third-party partnerships to help realize that value at speed, because I think that's the key. They may have enough people if they've got enough time, but if you want to get this deployed fast, you need expertise and you need people that can deploy and supplement to get the velocity.